listening to the MPI Paranormal Podcast, where the truth is to be found. A podcast exploring all things paranormal, hauntings, UFOs, crypto, the unknown. Our members believe in the skeptical approach, but with an open mind, just trying to make sense of it all.
I want to get back in there, try to figure that out, because it is the unknown.
I don't really have a say on it right now because I don't know what the video looks like.
Or I'm looking for the evidence. What's the evidence? A story to me is not really evidence because that's one person's experience.
Right.
And I take my personal beliefs into it, but like you said, then I have my skeptical side that wants to prove it another way.
Military Paranormal Investigations is not affiliated to any branch of the military. It's time! Coming to you from North Texas on multiple platforms for maximum reach. Here are your hosts, members of the MPI team.
And welcome to another episode of Military Paranormal Investigations Podcast. My name is Rob.
I'm Mike.
And I'm Jeff.
And tonight we have a very special podcast. Even though we've been gone for so long, we decided we wanted to hit this one really hard simply because of what's happening out there.
And that we have been actually redoing the studio, if you've seen things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been gearing up. We recorded some stuff, but because of what happened in news and in the world over the last couple of days,
It's like
here,
history. This is history.
we thought we would go ahead and do our take on this, and then we'll get you guys something out in the future about where we've been, where we're going, and things like that. So.
We plan on doing.
So first, we have to stress we're not affiliated with any branch of the military.
Nope.
Just a bunch of
Now retired vets
veterans just getting together, having a good time.
Having a good time, giving our view, our perception of what we find paranormal, what we don't find. That's all this podcast is about.
You can find us at our website, militaryparanormal.com.
On Facebook, Instagram, most of your social media pages.
And they'll all be the exact same thing. Just look for Military Paranormal, all one word. Don't separate it. You should find it. YouTube YouTube is the only one that really, if you put in Military Paranormal, it'll separate it. That's the only one that does that. So just put them together. It's really easy. Just go to YouTube /militaryparanormal.com and it'll come right up.
Don't forget, you guys have yours as well.
Undiscovered Origins, and I'm on all the social medias. They're the same thing. Just search up Undiscovered Origins.
And Paranormal Road Rider, same thing. Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, even though I don't have much on there.
I don't have much on there, but I was looking the other day, and actually, I know in the big scheme of YouTubers, it's not great, but I'm like, holy cow.
Yeah, I know.
You got like lots of.
And one last thing before we get started on the show, our number has changed.
That's right.
To 940-247-6741.
If you have any ideas you want to go over or any questions for us, anything like that, you can call, leave a message. If we're available, we'll answer. If not, leave a message and we'll get back to you. And there.
You can find us on the Facebook Messenger as well. And with that phone number, if you want to call in to be a guest, we have that capability as well. We do call-ins on the phone or even a Skype or Zoom.
So I think we're all really excited about this podcast tonight because when we started getting back together and looking at doing podcasts, we each took some time to figure out what would we like to do, maybe talk about, and do our own little podcast kind of on a topic.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the topics that I had interest in is hear a lot about UFOs, sightings, military members seeing them. Well, it just so happens this week they had a very big subcommittee hearing on Capitol Hill
With 3 witnesses. I'm sure a lot of people have probably heard about it or seen it on YouTube. If you haven't, highly recommend you watch it. But
I tell you what, this is, when even now I talk to people when I'm out and about, and they all know that I'm into this, and they'll bring it up or whatever, but still don't think they realize how much of a game changer, how important what is transpiring in this community is right now. I mean, this should have been some of the most, I mean, we should have had 60 minutes airing after. We should have had special report and coverage. And I got to look it on the news, and it's on there.
Yeah,
and
but it's
now
not.
but it's not like the top article.
No, it's not. And it should be. I really feel it should be.
This is, for many years, y'all know that my whole first foray was into the alien genre, UFOs, alien, all the mysterious things like that. And everybody thinks you're crazy. And it's almost a little vindication for some of that to have this stuff coming out. Back in 2017, what started all of this, with the videos that, actually, Commander Fravor came out with the videos, and everybody should know these by now. It's the TikTok.
No, TikTok. If you watched the subcommittee, they kept saying TikTok. It's not TikTok.
And I think we were all let down after what came out. We had To the Stars Academy and all of those. They were going to come out and they were going to push this. We were going to have a release once a week for the next 20 weeks. We were going to have this, and nothing really happened. Well, then last year,
the preliminary report,
and President Biden created the new group and created all of the background for some of this that was coming up. And what he did is he allowed people to speak without
the whistleblower act.
Yes, the whistleblower act. He allowed all this all of this sort of stuff to fall in place. So I think it was June 5th or when the story broke that Dave Brush, senior intelligence official within the programs of the government that was researching, and then what was the latest one called? They've changed.
Arrow? The UAP task force?
Yes. And he basically blew the whistle. I mean, some of the stuff that he came out with, I remember when it first came out, everybody was like, who's this guy? What's going on? Where's all this stuff going?
You know what I just realized? We're talking about everything, but we never actually said what we're going to be talking about this show. We just started going into it. We're doing this because of the subcommittee that they just had of 3 witnesses.
I thought we did that.
No, I don't think we did at all.
Well, I had said that it was because of my interest.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Well, that was me. I kind of jumped.
I know you. That's why I wanted to make sure everyone knows that this is because of the what was it, 2 days ago?
It was Wednesday.
Wednesday evening or Wednesday morning. The subcommittee on UAPs and the threat assessment, what it is to this nation, and they had 3 witnesses come in there, giving their witness stories and who you were talking about, Mr. David Grush. I want to say Koresh. I don't know why.
Yeah.
But that's the whole point behind this podcast.
And that's where I was going to kind of get a little history of how all this kind of transpired, starting with 2017 and coming up through all of that. And then, so Mr. Grush made some extraordinary claims basically he filed a report with the Inspector General to that everything that was happening within those programs were out of congressional oversight, and that people were getting there were repercussions. He was getting,
he's just saying that he was getting some backlash because of it.
But yeah.
He would report to his supervisors, according to him, he would report to his supervisors of what people were telling him. It's not so much of what he's seen. It was higher officials, people that were afraid were reporting to him, and he felt that there was no committee oversight, congressional oversight, which is why he decided to make multiple IG complaints or reports to his supervisors and the IGs on what he was told and what he, I guess, knows.
Right. Yeah, what he's witnessed
Right.
throughout his time there.
So before we go on, you said a couple things there. You said UAP. Explain what a UAP is compared to a UFO.
Same thing.
Okay.
Nowadays.
But what is UAP?
Unidentified aerial phenomena. And it's
Okay.
basically, it used to be UFO, and in my opinion, they changed to UAP because that kind of added paperwork,
Right.
and then basically have a little.
Right.
And the other thing is Inspector General. Those that may not be around the military.
Kind of checks and balances. That's the only way I know how. So if you have if say you're in the military and your organization is tasked to do something with government money, and it's your charge to make sure everything you're doing your job correctly. Well, the Inspector General can come. I mean, that's who's making sure you're doing your job, spending the money right, and making sure.
Right.
Okay. So they had the meeting. They came out. I think it was 27th, morning of the 27th.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Grothman was chairman
Right.
of the committee. Had several ranking.
You had Mr. Goldman.
Had Mr. Burchett from Tennessee. Miss Paulina Luna
Mm-hmm.
from Florida. She was prior military.
And she was prior Air Force. And then Mr. Moskowitz, which is also Florida representative.
Right. And
Mr. Garcia.
Mr. Garcia, Mr. Gates was on
Mhm.
the panel, a bunch of.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So we said the individuals that were on the panel was
Lieutenant Ryan, or retired Lieutenant Ryan Graves, Mr. David Gresh, which is a former intelligence officer
correct.
within the military. And then you had retired Commander David Fravor, which is known for the TikTok, right?
Tic-tac. So, Mike, break this.
Well, I mean, I think most of this came about by some of Rush's
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of what started all of. And that's where I was going. He's made some extraordinary claims. During the committee hearing, of course, he gets asked a lot of questions. So does Commander Fravor and Lieutenant Graves about what they witnessed. And I think we've all heard the story by now but I do want to touch on that about Commander Fravor and what he was, and I don't know. I don't know if you want to take it from,
But his story was,
or should we go ahead and cover pilots first? And because
let's put it this way. I know as soon as we get going, you're going to go down that rabbit hole, and Jeff and I are going to be like,
So you just go.
Yeah, we.
Well, I think if we cover Commander Fravor,
Okay.
So he's the one that witnessed the tic-tac, and he's talking about that in the committee hearings.
And that's one of the videos that
Right.
you see, but it's not actually him in the video. It's the next flight that goes and captures this. His is just complete witness. He was on a training mission, and I believe it was 2004 with the Black Aces, and they were off the coast of California, and they were in a training mission, and then it got canceled for a real world event. So him and the wingman and the two, they take off to where the controller tells them to go, and they're in this area, and they see this what they call white watch on the ocean floor. And he says it was a calm day,
And no waves, no white caps,
nothing. So standing on that big blue, it caught their attention, and they were about 20,000 feet. And then they said all of a sudden at about, say it was 15,000 feet, they seen tic tac, and he said it looked just like a tic tac would, longitudinal axis, no rudder, no wings, no propulsion, nothing like that.
He did say on the thermal image, have a couple out sticking.
Right. And he said that his wingman stayed up above to watch him. He went down, taking a 240-degree dive down, and the Tic Tac saw him, started heading towards him, and they met at about 15,000 feet, or 12,000. Yeah, 15,000 feet. And he said he was like a half a mile away from it, and then it just darted away from him.
It was. I was trying to remember the time frame, but it was 60 miles away when it popped back up
A
on
minute.
radar. Yeah,
He
1
said
minute.
all he did, because his wingman lost visual of it, so he climbed back up to where he was at 20,000 feet. They got ready to turn around, and the controller contacted him and said, "You're not going to believe this, but your object is literally 60 miles away, and it was only a minute." I did the calculation, 3,600 miles per hour.
So that's not unheard of in terms of rockets and things like that. But here's what I wanted, and this is what I try to explain to people all the time. So if you take an aircraft and you're doing 600 miles an hour through sea level,
Right.
the surface of that aircraft will heat up a lot. So, and they talk about this in the video. He's talking about it's not the physiological materials that we have today. So, the things that make up the aircraft hull, that sort of thing.
Yep.
It is not possible for them to perform the way that this object and survive the way this object would have done. So you take a look at the SR-71 Blackbird, and it's cruising 2,000 miles an hour, 60,000 feet up. It gets so hot it expands. I mean, that's why it leaks fuel on the ground.
Yes.
I mean, everybody's heard all these stories and all. So if you're doing, there was one place that I read, if you're doing Mach 4, Mach 5, and if you were doing that, they do that many tens of thousands of feet up. If you did that at sea level, it would turn the whole of that of materials that we have now to molten metal.
Right.
It could not survive. And then you get to looking at, say, like the fast mover and things like that, which is where I think Lieutenant Graves comes in. And I want to say that one was moving substantially faster.
I mean, Commander Fravor?
No, on the other pilot. When they had and that's I trying to explain that to people. Well, they're like, well, a rocket does 2,500 miles an hour, and ICBM goes, I think, somewhere substantially close to that, but it's also going out of the atmosphere where there's no air pressure.
Right. There's less resistance.
And then it's coming back down.
And that was another reason why they went and checked this thing out, because they said it was coming down for a few weeks. They would witness it coming from
above 80,000,
which is space,
right.
drop down for a few hours, do its thing, and then shoot straight back up
and go away. And we don't have, supposedly,
the technology.
We don't have the technology to be able to do that. And even if we did, if let's say we had some sort of thrust mechanism,
the G-force alone,
the G-forces and the material physiology could not handle those types of stresses.
Right.
So, and that's, they're testifying this to Congress. That to me, that's one of the key points that you have to take into consideration. This isn't that they did this to get on the cover of the Washington Post, or they're testifying to our government. This is what we saw. It is not possible. It is not. We can't.
We don't have that technology. It's like he said.
Like devil's advocate. So, could it be possible that they're not at a security level high enough that we aren't testing some kind of craft that they wouldn't know about?
I mean, theoretically, yes. And that's where a lot of these hearings come in, and I'll kind of get to that. But there's been numerous aerospace engineers, lots of people with a lot more education that have backed those. We don't have the physics knowledge to be able to do this yet.
We don't have the science.
Yeah, we just don't.
And
we
that's
don't
like
have the
the
science.
point I was making earlier off camera. We had Newton in the Renaissance come up with gravity. We learned about gravity. We understand gravity. And then a couple hundred years later, we had Einstein come up and let us know about space-time, how you can fold it, how you can stretch it. I guarantee it's just another couple hundred years that we will, I'm sure, have the understanding and the technology, and science will change again.
Well, here's my point of thinking. But we all know that the government has flight programs and these sorts of things. When they go to call this hearing, I'm sure it's run by the brains of a lot of people. If there was a government program, I believe if it was our technology, I believe they would have been shut down. They'd have been like, hey, I ain't telling you nothing else, but do not do this.
Okay.
And maybe,
maybe
they did.
That's the case, and this is why Mr. Gresh came out, and maybe that's why Lou Elizondo left as well. Maybe they're trying to shut them down. They're like, it's out there. I mean, they're talking about this. Even Jay Stratton.
So, and on that note, though, Jeff, when we get into more of what Grush claims, I think most of that. I think that the committee chair would have been told, because I mean, some of these guys have pretty high security clearances as well. They would have been told, look, this is a government program. That's all I can tell you. No. But they're not being, they're being told no. And that's part of the purpose of this whole hearing, by the way, is they want to be able to consolidate a reporting location,
right?
So that everybody has access to it, and they want the public to have access to it if it does not compromise our national security. Like, we can't give away the capabilities of our aircraft. And I completely understand that.
Yeah.
But if we have, and there's so many sides.
But it's like the question that one of the senators asked: is there any reason why the Tic Tac, see, got me saying TikTok now because he said it. The Tic Tac, is there any reason why that needs to be classified?
No, there's not.
Then why would
there was no reason why, in my opinion, the fast mover or the one that like the Tic Tac, but it's away from
the top one almost. I can't remember the name of that one either, but I know what you're talking about.
I mean, I could understand if there's something on the display that is classified,
right?
That I could understand. Blur it out, whatever you want to do. But like they said, that shows nothing,
right? It shows it moved away fast.
And here's my take on it as well too. So, of course, we've talked about this in the past about technology change allow a lot more. Sure. So, when you look back at 2017 and the fast mover, one of the things that we had was the radar that had the capability of tracking something that quickly. So those sorts of things. Well, we're going to get to that point, but so that's military capability. But what about all of the other sightings that weren't, or the witness encounters and things that didn't that way? And that's part of this thing too. Is one of the things they talked about was civilian aircraft pilots. When they go and they have an encounter, and they said sometimes theirs are extremely close and extremely dangerous,
and they have to make course corrections,
and they want to tell somebody, and then they're issued cease and desist from their companies. They can't talk about, they can't do this,
right?
But all that is a money thing, because they're afraid people won't fly.
Exactly, they'll think they're crazy. They won't fly with them.
We need to know if this is happening, because for one, we need to know why, and two, is it national security? Is somebody testing it or trying to do something? But
or is it just an observer?
Yeah.
That's my thing. I've been reading a lot of threads after this committee, and people are all on the gung ho. There are adversaries. They're an adversary.
Yes.
You're just claiming it to be an adversary.
And I think some of the thing is are they an adversary? Yeah. But that's the question we don't know, because we're not being given all the information.
But if they were an adversary, the Tic Tac, It saw him. It headed towards him, but as soon as it got close enough, it just observed and took off the other way. I guarantee you, with that much speed, all I had to do is crash right through it. It wouldn't have damaged that thing.
But we have encounters, all the time with China, Russia, where
Yes.
we have aircraft standoff and
Yes.
ship standoff and things like that, and nobody fires anything. So,
But
is that possibility still there? Yeah.
But see, we've gone years now, and because of things that are happening in the world, they are our adversaries. If this is something from either inner space, outer space, they're not an adversary. They came all this way to conquer us. Yes, you have all these movies and everything out there, but I think they're more of an observer than anything. If we have all these sightings and nothing has happened,
Well, see, and this is where
I know.
So you just said they come all this way to conquer us. One of the things they talked about, and I'm trying to keep this.
Why?
So one of the things they talked about, Senator Gates said, I am to believe that another civilization traveled thousands of light years across the galaxies to come to us, and I'm not wording this verbatim, I'm paraphrasing. How am I to believe that they're going to come here, they're going to crash, they're going to do this or whatever? And one of the things they talked about was Colonel Fravor said after, and I don't remember if it was the Fast Mover or the other one, whenever they were trailing it. I think it was
with
Graves.
Graves. It was Graves.
And they said, well, it was moving away at a substantial pace, and it went, and they said, well, what happened after the video
made a
cuts
J hook
off?
or a right turn or something like that real quick.
And then it lost stabilization. They said it appeared to be wobbling, and it appeared like it was losing some control, and then I guess it took off. But so my thought on that is, just because something might travel 1,000 light years to get here, it doesn't mean that they're going to join the mutant. I mean,
yes.
You know what I mean? They're not, I don't mean they have superpowers.
Mm-hmm.
Just because they have a different understanding of physics, maybe they figured out another law before we did.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean that they have super cloaking armor,
right, that
protects them from being shot down or mechanical failure. I mean, look at, we got to go get a brand new car, and that car, it may be brand new off the lot. You may drive it 5 miles up the road and
boom,
it breaks.
Yeah.
Who's to say that they're so much more advanced that they don't have mechanical failure? They don't have these sorts of things that happen. And also, my thought on this is as well, we talked about when the aircraft's moving at sea level, there's so much air resistance that it heats up. So if they're coming from a planet that maybe doesn't have that type of atmosphere, they come here, they're moving at 13,000 miles an hour at sea level.
Yeah.
Maybe it's causing problems on their craft too. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I don't think that, I think by now, if there was they've traveled 10,000 light years to conquer us, that would have happened.
I believe as well. Wholeheartedly.
I think that personally, and maybe I'm wrong on this, and maybe there are some, as we get really deep into some of these stories, maybe there are good ones and bad ones and this, that, and the other, and maybe some of them want to cause us harm, but I just don't think they have that much more ability. I think that they've got a different understanding of certain things that's allowed them to be able to get here. That makes sense.
Oh, wholeheartedly makes sense to me. Yeah.
So
what rabbit hole you want to go down now?
I think, I mean, we could beat the tic-tac and all that stuff to death, but that's out there forever. I really want to get into Grush's statement. So, and that's where I was going earlier. I think it was like June 5th or June 6th. A story was published that he was coming out, and he had all this information.
Right.
And it I don't know if you want to kind of go in step by step, or we were talking about, we didn't really have a good outline for this, because how do you,
there's really no good outline.
Because it all
moving off in
exactly,
and it bounces off of each other.
Yeah,
and this,
definitely. So
but one of the first comments that struck me was when he said and I don't remember who it was, asked him, said how long we as a government have. So he made a lot. Let me back up. He made a lot of claims about what we have. He said basically we have craft in our possession,
Right.
crashed and whole.
Right.
We have occupants,
Yep.
biological
Yes.
materials.
Yes.
That's the way I think they worded it.
Yeah.
And we've known about this since the 30s. There was a whole bunch of just extraordinary claims, you know, that humans have been harmed, and I want to go over that too. But so one of the first things that struck me, and y'all remember, I texted y'all, we've had it since the 30s.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all know what happened in the 30s. So this is a story that it's not been out too long, and there's not a lot of information. I wanted to do a podcast.
Oh, you're talking about the no, I was going to say the one where it came off the California coast and
No.
the missile silo. No,
This was between World War I and World War II. Mussolini was power over Italy.
Mhm.
You know, Italy at this point in time was still in the kind of the Axis
okay,
power range there. So, but supposedly they had a crash in Italy. I want to say it's like June 15th of 1933. And there was some paperwork, and I want to do a podcast on that. Although there's not a lot of information, but it's the whole story in itself could probably do a little show. But basically, what it boiled down to was, and this story gets a lot of controversy because some of the statements that were made. But basically, a cigar-shaped craft had crashed. They went and recovered it, and in it had two beings. They were they were 1.8 meters, blonde hair, blue eyes, which a lot of people relate to the Nordics.
right.
Mussolini at first thought, well, hey, you know, this is our adversaries. We've got to, we need to regroup. And he made several statements and things along that. And they're like, nah, we're pretty sure his, you know, right-hand men were like, nah, we're pretty sure this ain't from us.
Right.
So supposedly they had this cigar-shaped craft that we later took possession of.
Okay.
So if you remember, I mean, this is where this gets so deep. This could be 2 or 3 podcasts, but so they go on later, and in 36, there's another guy that's talking about the cigar shape, which they call the ghost rockets back then. I don't know if you've heard this terminology before. And then he calls it by the wrong name, but basically people interpret it as the Glock, which is the German bell.
Right.
If you remember, there's a whole lot of conspiracies
Yes.
to talk about it disappeared, and they had those testing facilities that looked like little Stonehenge things where this thing was supposedly tested and chained down and all this, that, and the other. And they talk about people say, well, no, you said it was this, that, or the other. And then he talks about how it was a certain size, which was like 3 meters, something like that. Well, Grush says they're like 10 meters
Okay.
long, which are the disc portions of them. But anyway, that's what struck me immediately, is that as soon as they said that story popped in my head. Well,
Okay. I see what you're
wait a
saying.
minute. We've been talking about this forever. And the rumors are is that the U.S., when we went into Germany into Italy, and sometime I think it was around 43, and don't quote me on the date, once Italy kind of was falling, we gained that technology. So
you're saying we took the craft back?
And I believe we got the craft, the bodies, because the bodies were supposedly embalmed. They called it something else, but basically it's formaldehyde.
Mm-hmm.
And so Grush makes the claim that we have bodies in our possession. We have live ones and dead ones. And
Okay, so could he be talking about the other conspiracy one, Roswell?
well, that's why it rung out to me. That's why I texted y'all. He said the 30s.
Yes. Okay.
We've had them since the 30s. So that one struck out to me. Because I still don't know personally if Roswell
Is
a UFO thing. I think that it may really have been a government program that the Air Force botched in
Chinese
the
balloon.
release. What's that?
It's a Chinese balloon.
I think it could have been a reconnaissance balloon. They tried to claim it as a weather balloon.
Weather balloon.
There's a whole lot of stuff about that. But if you listen to everything that he released, there wasn't a whole lot that could have just pointed to, in my opinion, that he could have just pointed at Roswell.
Right.
Now, we do have craft, we have these things, we have this sort of things, but that one really, really struck me.
What about the multiple crash sites where we've recovered the craft and reverse engineered?
I can fully buy that, though. And we've talked about that at Kecksburg.
Mm-hmm.
Kecksburg, of course, was supposed to be acorn shaped,
Right.
and it would have probably fit the description of Grush better, because that it would have been a little bigger, where like the Glock would have been smaller. But man, there's so much stuff on this. So your sighting,
Yeah, it
What
was
was
just
it?
it was just a ball
ball of light,
That's all it
Foo
was.
Fighters, right?
Yeah.
So where did all this stuff start happening? In the middle of between World War I, World War II. They had the Foo Fighters, the Ghost Rockets, all of these things that Grush is saying to me just started clicking. You know what I mean? One of the things they keep talking about, the craft, the majority of these craft that they're talking about were cubes, black
Right.
cubes
The
inside
black
of
cube
clear
and-
spheres.
Sphere.
And they're not that big. So a lot of people say, well, that is like a probe or
Right.
something
Could be a
that they're-
probe.
that they're
That-
sending out.
That's wholeheartedly what I believe mine was a
And-
probe.
Right. I mean, something.
Because I don't think there was little.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
I said, my probe was only.
Basketball.
Yeah,
That's a
basketball.
common size.
Yeah.
Basketball,
Yeah.
washing machine size.
Yeah,
you know
that's
what I mean?
that's
And that's what
mine.
comes out of, say, Skinwalker Ranch.
Yeah.
And the only thing that makes me think that man, my brain, Roswell might be real is if you look at supposedly the flight pattern, it was coming from up toward range, the
Right,
flight
okay.
path of that. So, and then there was another one that happened in New Mexico. I believe it was. I've got a couple of. There was another crash recovery that happened in New Mexico, 48. That was after
The
Roswell incident. But that was one of the key things that I took.
So
off.
where do you think they were keeping? If we've got these crash sites, where do you think we were keeping this stuff? Because everyone claims Area 51. Area 51 wasn't built until the 50s.
Yeah. Well, and I don't think. I mean, I don't know where they would have kept it back then. I mean, right now, one of the big
Fort Worth.
Wright Patterson.
Well, Fort Worth at the time.
And so you want me to go down that path? So
I do.
Stephenville, I-20 corridor.
Uh-huh.
I mean, yeah. And then there was another UFO sighting that happened in, I just read this the other day, in 50, 53, 6, but it was a plane that was testing radar capability. And anyway, and it basically was coming through Oklahoma, went through the object that they were tracking that was showing up as this massive radar thing that was going, it was headed towards the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And then finally the plane was running out of gas and it took off back north towards Oklahoma. And this craft followed them for a while until gone. But why do you say Fort Worth?
Well, just because you got the Navy facility down there, and they were saying back then, I can't remember the base and everything, but it was a big facility. And I remember reading an article from the Roswell incident that's where they took the weather balloon.
Not Carswell.
Carswell.
Carswell. Yeah, it's Carswell. Thank you.
See,
Yes.
and that's where all this happened. That was the stuff that happened with this one plane that I'm talking about. Also, my opinion is it's going to be in plain sight. It's a whole lot easier to hide something in plain sight than
to
it
put a
is
cover over it.
unless it's desert under secret where
Mhm.
everybody's trying to get to it. Anyway, they built ships in San Diego,
Well, I used to be
the harbor there.
I used to work for a nuclear power plant, and all the fuel rods that were nuclear, they brought them in plain sight. We just put them in boxes, put a cover over them, and you wouldn't even know where they were coming from. I mean, it's just on a truck.
Hmm.
Had no clue. I guarantee you, we got the same stuff. Throw a cover over it,
Yeah.
you'd never know.
Yeah.
Low key, low profile.
Yes.
Nobody asks a question.
Yep.
Sure.
Especially in today's world, I think even though we have more cell phones, more than the other, I think that everybody's kind of like leave me alone, I'll leave you
Yeah,
alone type
right.
attitude. So, um, so yeah, that the 33 thing struck me, or the 30s thing struck me, and then also when and is it just conjecture to sit here and say, well, yeah, of course he said they're cubes, not a sphere, small, but look at how many sightings there are. Like, tons of people have those sightings of those orbs that are flying. If you have a black cube inside a clear sphere, who's to say it doesn't emit light at times it's going here and there? But what did you think about the was it Patrick that the cube, the 100 square yard cube?
Oh no, that was in
Vandenberg.
Yeah,
you had the Vandenberg, the red, red one. Yeah, that was about the size
of a football field.
Yeah,
that showed up. That? Why haven't we heard? Okay, it happens. It goes to an Air Force base. Okay, people talk in the Air Force bases. You go from base to base and you meet up with someone new and they talk about their experiences at that location.
Well, didn't they say it shut down the base?
Yeah, it shuts down everything.
It did.
So what's at Vandenberg?
I believe it's missiles.
Yeah. Nuclear capability.
When you look back through time, every time we've had a UFO flap happen, it's when we up with our. So we've had our first nuclear, the silos going. Guess what? They had all these sightings. You
even had that one where they shut down the silos.
Right. So, but then once we've kind of normalized, the flaps kind of go away. Mm. Well, then we come out with a new Minuteman,
right?
And, so there's.
So do you think they're observing, or they're stopping, or it's?
Personally, I don't. Just because they shut down the radio, don't mean they're trying to cause us harm,
right?
Or the radar. They don't want to be seen.
Yes.
So do they have jamming? We have jamming capabilities.
Yeah, we do. They jam the one that Graves was talking about. They jam theirs.
Yeah.
Right.
So why do we think it's out of the realm to think that if this thing's coming up to see, hey, what's going on? They're going to scan what we have, and then they jam our radars and stuff, so they can't be tracked, and then they go. So this one was probably the most poignant statement that I took out of the whole thing about was when Mr. Gates was talking about they received a call that y'all need to come down. We've had some stuff happen.
Right.
And that was the one where they had four objects come off the coast.
Mm-hmm. And so I guess he basically says he got there. First, they wasn't going to let him on base, and he's like, never mind who provides your funding authority. And so they finally get on. It takes them days. They finally got access to it. He said, basically, in more or less words, what I saw on that video was beyond human comprehension.
Beyond our human comprehension.
Right. So now, okay, I know people that, I work with cars. I know people come and they're like, well, what's that? But we're talking someone that sits on these committees. This guy knows.
Well, yeah.
You know what I mean? He's not an idiot.
No, not at all.
And if he makes a statement that it is beyond human understanding what he witnessed in this deal, this is a sitting
congressman.
This isn't Bubba behind the 7-Eleven. This is that is a statement that went on record in a hearing, in public record.
Well,
so and that's the thing about this whole meeting is they're sitting here saying, well, we're losing our jobs because we're saying that we're doing this, and you have a U.S. official. It's like I've seen it.
We got two presidents.
I mean,
Gerald Ford, 1966.
But this is
Jimmy Carter
on record regarding the subject. I mean, you know what I mean? That is
right.
And I agree. I mean, Eisenhower.
Yeah.
I mean, there's, I think Truman. Yeah, that just struck me that he may because he's called these people to testify, and basically he gives his story that's gone
His
on
own
record.
testimony.
Yeah, that's gone too. So anyway, that one really sorry.
So you because of this, you're now more inclined to believe that there are.
I'm not any more inclined because I believe forever. I mean, and the things that are being said, I mean, and that's where I wanted to go on this. So think about the repercut. This guy could have been misled. He could he could have been. He gets into this high level defense position, right? And the ones up there like, hey, we got to see who's on our team, so we're going to tell him this and see what he does. And they gave him misinformation. It's like, hey, we got a little green man out behind the barn. Okay. So he runs and tells. They can't trust this guy. Let's say that's what happened.
So you're talking about Grush.
Yes. So here's the thing, though. He worked in an office regarding that. All it takes is one of those statements to be true, and our entire history is changed.
Yes.
Everything that we know is changed. And think about this. What does that mean?
What about the original whistleblower?
I don't think that. I don't think that. And that's where I'm going with this.
I know.
Travis Walton.
Yeah.
Arizona.
What I mean, I believe that he believes that happened to him. I'm inclined to believe that did happen to him.
Well,
but
considering all the details.
So let's just say one of the statements Mr. Grush makes is they ask him, have humans been harmed? Travis Walton.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But do we, is
all,
that
all the other ones that have the fourth kind encounter? That movie where they had all the tapes, all the recordings of them.
And it's not human, but cattle mutilation.
Yeah.
I mean, what is it? What is it that's transpiring here? So, and they'll hold that thought because I'm going back to him.
All right.
At what point now does the narrative change from kook to holy crap? This guy was telling the truth.
Well,
you know what I mean?
Well, I think for me, one of the things that got me was they asked him several times, and I know they do it to get it on record.
Right.
But they asked him, have you been harmed? Have you been personally, physically, whatever? He's putting a lot of his life, his family's life, his job, everything on the line for this.
And here's the thing, too, because obviously, I mean, I think that you can't sit and look at any of this stuff without just sitting here saying that one thing that is confirmed is that we have agencies in the government that
are hiding this.
Straight up hiding it. And what length would they go to? One, is it because it would scare the crap out of everybody, which I think is still a possibility. I do think that. I don't think that they've come here to like overtake the world, but are they here to suck us up in the field in the middle of the night and go do experiments because they want to understand us? I mean, we do that to sea animals consistently. You know what I mean? Or animals in the field.
Right.
What's the difference there? And then, but you can't, I think that, yes, maybe his life was threatened. And he said, I think he basically said that people have been killed.
Right.
Yeah.
In trying to disclose or see that. And I can believe that 100%.
Oh, sure.
Especially during the Cold War.
Yes.
I mean, I can fully.
In the 50s and 60s.
Yeah. Because we had a different mindset. I mean, it was
completely
America first all the way.
Right.
Yes.
And somebody that believes that hiding from us the fact that we have aliens in the closet
or technology from them.
Yes. I mean, and we've all discussed this a million times. I mean, we went from tens of thousands of years of banging rocks on sticks to a couple hundred years.
Yeah.
That my phone right now is hundreds of times more powerful than the space shuttle was.
Yeah.
I mean, what that we know of, but what about all the reports, in like John Glenn and those guys, when there's those people that said that they heard the ham radio things of here they come, or there's this, that going on. One of the things that makes me think of the story where, I don't know if it was Fravor or Graves was talking about, we're watching this object, and then somebody makes the comment on the radio, there's a fleet of them over there. That's basically, that's basically the same thing. And I don't know if it was Glenn or I don't remember which astronaut it was, but basically that's what he alludes to. Right. They're over there watching us.
Yes.
How similar is that? You know what I mean? Where I don't know. To me, this is all it takes. It doesn't have to be that we've got little green men stuffed in a cooler somewhere. All it takes is we have a craft that is not earthly, that crashed in the desert in New Mexico, that we have in our possession, and we reverse engineered.
And I go back to David Grush saying the reason that we're afraid, or they're afraid, is vulnerability. They're afraid of us being vulnerable, saying, yeah, there's other worlds out there.
Well, we are vulnerable.
Of course, because we don't have that technology that can keep up with any of this.
But, and here's the...
So why not let us know?
And here's my thought on that process. You look at anytime we've been tested as humanity. The Great War, World War I or World War II, World Trade Center, these sort. Look at how people came together.
Right.
So right now you have, I would say, a majority of the scientific community like, but y'all are kooks. But now you open up. I would be willing to bet more than half of the scientific community is like, that don't happen. But you say, hey, look, no, here's what we got. Let's look at this. Let's see what we can get from this. And now this person over here that's like crazy, he's like, what? I'm a physicist.
Right.
Well educated. I'm going to apply for this position because that's what I want to study. And now we've got technology that may help us be less vulnerable.
Right.
I think that's what a lot of people miss. And this is not just, I want to know, it's how much of the world we open up to understanding and concepts. Because like you said earlier, we learn the first law of physics and it's a couple hundred years later and we get the second. At what point in time are we going to, I mean, when you look at science as a whole, I mean, we don't understand dark matter. We don't understand, we don't, all these things. What if the answer is there?
Yeah.
And we're keeping that. And maybe that's why. Maybe we have enough scientists and we're understanding that. And maybe that level of edge that we have. But, and here's the same thing to that. I don't think for an instant, I mean, the stories go back, Germany was probably some of the first people to have crashed craft. You know what I mean? You don't think Russia's got something?
Oh,
if we got it?
Well, they had that one crash site in Russia.
Don't have it?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, yeah. So I just think that, I don't know. I think that needs to be public record for that matter.
And which is why these three individuals come out and they're giving their stories to put that out there for the public to hear.
So go ahead. I'm sorry.
But there is also a lot of stuff that when they were asking them questions, I can't tell you that here. I tell you behind closed doors, but I can't tell you that here.
But I get that because right now, and that's what people take that as.
But is that due to a legal thing?
Yes. What it's due to is he filed a report with the IG.
Mm-hmm.
That is still an ongoing investigation.
Right.
If he breaks the terms of that disclosure under the whistleblower program, it all goes out the window. He has no protection. So he can go to jail for treason.
But
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I can understand doing it because of national security. I wholeheartedly don't say anything about what we have for national security. But if you can tell us, do we have that craft or not? Security.
Because the information and the way I understand the information that he has, the proof of that information that
Right.
he has provided is a classified document. So by him telling the public,
And why is that classified?
and there you go. And that's what I hope. I hope that this doesn't turn into a 5-year debacle like the Tic Tac release. Because I think there's
now
a lot
they're
of
doing
people
that yearly annual UAP report now that they have to get.
Yeah.
Well, and if you remember at the end of this hearing, the chairman basically said, you got 5 days to
Right.
submit the rest of your stuff to me, and we're going to keep this moving. I guess now it's going to go to a congressional, full-on subcommittee.
Really?
That's the way I was understanding some of this. I could be way wrong.
You know what? I know we were going down a rabbit hole.
Oh,
and
you were talking
everything.
about disclosing the.
Oh yeah, disclosing. Why can't we disclose?
And I hope that that's the way that where this goes. You know, after 2017, there were so many people that got on board, and talk about this too. You know, we've been doing this, and something happens, and somebody comes on, and that's kind of what we're doing now because we're around for a little while, but we're gonna get that out to you guys.
Yes, we are going to get out more podcasts.
Well, and we're gonna tell you why what happened. But anyway, but a lot of people jumped on this bandwagon and were ready to go, and then 5 years later, you got nothing.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't know what happened there with those guys with To the Stars and Lou Elizondo and all this stuff when they were gonna they promised they had information. I think I remember correctly. They said they had like 20 videos they were gonna release one at a time, and I don't know if they were shut down by somebody. You know, I don't know. I kind of, and I'm guilty too, because after a while I just kind of like, well, it's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, that we also had the pandemic.
Yeah.
Which is another reason
Well,
why
and
it didn't
yeah.
happen.
So, what do you think about when he talks about when he asks if humans have been harmed and he says yes? What's your take on?
Well, you go back to that Travis Walton thing again. Taking him up, doing the fourth kind probing, if you would.
But I guess for me, do you think he's saying being harmed by the non-human, or
Well, and I think they asked that twice. But yes, I know where you're going. Was it because the government harmed them, or
Okay.
But they did ask the question if
because
whatever the
if I remember correctly, they asked the question, and I thought one of them said, and I may be wrong at this, that it was somebody was harmed when they were trying to reverse engineer.
That's what I was just going to do.
something.
Yeah, I can understand that one wholeheartedly, being harmed while you're trying to reverse something that you don't understand.
and that was where I was going. Do you think that they've there's been secret? We have
Well, there's the conspiracy theory.
missions
Yeah,
and-
I was just going to go there. That
like the guys that go to the moon and battle the aliens in the tunnels. Have you heard all that stuff?
Yeah.
Or Mars? Was it
Right,
Mars?
Mars.
Yeah.
Mars, yeah.
So anyway, I know that there's been several.
And we have that good group of aliens that are supposedly protecting us from the bad ones,
the lizard ones.
Yeah, the lizard ones, way out there. It has nothing to do with this, but
Well, and what I thought of what I first thought of was, things like if you know any of the first documented case was like, I think his name was like Mitchell in like 1948. Supposedly he had an encounter with one. He went to follow it, and he went up till he ran out of oxygen, and then basically crashed because he was trying to follow it. Or Frederick Valentich, if you know who that is, the Australian guy. There's audio of it on the internet. I don't know if we can find that or.
I'll look for it.
But he was flying, and there's a whole bunch of conspiracy that he was trying to disappear. He was going to try to take care of himself, if you will. But he's flying, and he's basically reporting this thing's following me. This thing's following me. And it's like a 20-minute deal, but there's like 10 or 15 seconds at the end. He's like, I'm not going to come back or whatever. They're here or whatever. And then it's this metallic scraping sounds. And then that's the last he was ever heard of. Never found his plane, never found him, never found nothing.
And you're saying this stuff's on the internet? Sounds
Frederick
and everything?
Valentich, yeah.
Okay.
Well, I'll send you.
Well, how about this? How about, because we've been going a while, how about we take a break? I put that clip in there for the break, and then we come back and we do part 2 of this.
Sounds like a plan.
Sounds good.
All right. So stay tuned. We're going to get back on this and listen to that clip that Mike just talked about. Tell us what you think in the comments, whatever, when we come back.
Don't go away. We'll be right back with more content on the MPI podcast.
At 6:19 p.m. on the 21st of October 1978, 20-year-old Frederick Valentich departed from the Murrabin Airport with the intention to land at the nearby King Island over the Bass Strait. With a total of 150 hours of flying time, the weather in the Cape Otway area, where Frederick was flying through, was reported to have excellent visibility and only light winds. This was important because while Frederick was authorized to fly at night, he only held a Class 4 instrument rating, which meant he could only do so under the condition he had sufficient visibility and could maintain visual separation from terrain and other aircraft while flying. However, at 7:06 p.m., less than an hour into his flight, Frederick would radio the Melbourne Flight Service with reports that an unidentified aircraft was following him.
This is Delta Sierra Juliet. Is there any known traffic below 5,000 feet? No known traffic. Seems to be a large aircraft below 5,000 feet. What type of aircraft is it? I cannot confirm. It's 4 bright, seems to me like landing lights. The aircraft has just passed over me at least 1,000 feet above. Is there any Air Force aircraft in the vicinity? No known aircraft in the vicinity. Seems to be playing some sort of game. He's flying over me. Delta Sierra Juliet, it's not an aircraft, it's... Can you describe the aircraft? As it's flying past, it's a long shape. Cannot identify it, it has such speed. It's before me right now, Melbourne. How large would the object be? Seems like it's stationary. What it's doing right now is orbiting. The thing is just orbiting on top of me. It's also got a green light and a sort of metallic, like, it's shiny on the outside. It's just vanished. That strange aircraft's hovering on top of me again. It's hovering and it's not an aircraft.
Now, some of this transcript has been redacted, but it's reported Frederick's final transmission was interrupted by the sound of metallic scraping, and all communication was lost 6 minutes after Frederick's initial call at 7:12 p.m. The Department of Transport would immediately declare an alert phase, which means the aircraft or person is experiencing difficulty and may need assistance, but is not in immediate danger or in need of immediate response. By 7:33 p.m, Frederick's aircraft had still failed to reach King Island, and his alert phase would be moved to the distress phase, calling for search action to be commenced. The Department of Transport states it conducted intensive air, sea and land searches for the next 4 days, but by the 25th of October, could still find no trace of Frederick's aircraft. In their written report signed close to 4 years later, the reason for the disappearance would still remain undetermined. Even as of today, the aircraft or Frederick himself have not been located. The only evidence found indicating he did not vanish from the face of the earth is an engine cow flap that washed ashore on Flinders Island in 1983. The Bureau of Air Safety Investigation would note that the part has been identified as having come from the Cessna 182 aircraft between a certain range of serial numbers, which included Frederick's aircraft. So what happened to Frederick?
Make sure you never miss a show by subscribing to our channel on Podbean or wherever you listen to us.
This podcast is made possible by listeners like you. Thank you for your support.
Now back to the show.
All right, and welcome back to Military Paranormal Investigation. Once again, my name is Rob.
I'm Mike.
And I'm Jeff.
And we happened to find that clip. So you just got back from watching that clip of the pilot saying
Frederick
he's seen,
Valentich,
yeah, saying he's seen that.
So do you think that was what they're talking about when they say that humans have been harmed, or do you think it's more?
Well, if you didn't know on that video at the very end where that all that static was, you heard that metal scraping and he disappeared. There's no evidence that he was around. His plane wasn't found. He wasn't found. So as far as harming, do you think it captured him?
Well, and that's where I'm going. Do you think, or it crashed into him and he crashed and went in the ocean and we just never found him?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, do you think that's what Grush meant when he says humans have been harmed, or do you think that it is more like we've tried to capture one and it got ugly with it?
Well, for me, when he was talking about humans harmed, I think it was more, like I said, towards the not messing with technology that we don't know. So I think that has to be where they're harming them. And could it also be a harm to where the fourth encounter of the fourth kind, where they get abducted, experiments are done on them, and then they return them? Or that conspiracy theory, are we giving humans to them to experiment?
Yes. Or we're allowing it to happen.
There you go.
Yeah, I've heard conspiracies on that where, well, you can take somebody every now and then as long as you give us, how do we make that microprocessors? That thing.
Right.
And we just turn our heads while it happens.
Possible. I mean,
I don't know that. Yeah, I don't know.
There's no reports out there that is denying this, and maybe that's what this is coming light to. He's trying to bring light to it by saying humans have been harmed. Because once again, this is stuff being told to him. He doesn't have firsthand knowledge of that unless he is reading it.
He said he has seen some stuff. He's seen some photos, videos, reports.
Right. But
then, yeah, most of everything he has is
hearsay.
Yes, to a degree.
I think for me, anyways, thinking when you talk about were humans harmed, think about, okay, a spacecraft crashes. We don't know what their technologies are.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know what the aircraft is made from. So what kind of outfits are we putting on to deal with this?
That brought me to in August of 1974 in Kuyame, a plane that collided with. The plane was destroyed. The disc crashed. We recovered it. Or
Mexico, who's we?
Mexico.
Okay.
Like 24 Mexican soldiers, I think it was, recovered it. And they waited till like the next day that there was any survivors. So they went out, they got it, they loaded it on a truck, and then a little bit later they found the convoy with soldiers dead. Which I've heard different things that disc was taken over by the U.S. military, things like that. But anyway, that's what I think you're alluding to. Like maybe radiation,
right,
or
right,
magnetic,
sure,
things like that.
Yeah,
but yeah, that's kind of what I don't think that they're blasting it,
right,
things like that.
Yeah,
turn us to jail in the floor. Hope not. But we go into, what about what is the name of that? Having another brain dump. In New Mexico, the Butte, supposedly an underground base there where they have the different levels of aliens and supposedly had battles. What is the name?
My mind wants to go to the Dugway Proving Grounds, but that's in Utah.
Yeah,
that's in Utah.
That's in the Uinta, which is
another.
Yeah, that's another.
And there we go. Humans are being harmed. What about Skinwalker?
Yeah.
Well, they got that new season, apparently. They're bringing in different ones, and now there's actually another show on there. Can't remember, but I seen it where they're bringing in someone else to try and do it. It's a whole new.
Oh, wow.
I haven't looked at it yet.
Seen that.
So yeah, that was one of the things that I thought of. I mean, it's all you can do, I think, in that speculate till we get more data.
Right.
I don't think. I don't think it's necessarily bad stuff like just or that or crashes. We're chasing it and it stop or I mean, could we be chasing something and decide it's
well, yeah, just like
I mean, you talk about like you hear like the civilian witness reports where they were driving along, the car goes dead. Did that happen to aircraft? Were we chasing a UFO and all of a sudden the plane went dead?
Sure.
Couldn't eject or do anything?
Possibly.
Yeah.
The so Grush talks about have biological as what I guess
they called it biologic, yeah.
Yeah.
So alive and dead. So we kind of mentioned earlier, we talk about where would they keep bodies and all, but what do you think? Do you think we still have that? Do you think we kept them in a freezer the whole time? Do you still studying that? If that's the case,
I would tend to say yes if we have it. I mean, what would we just body?
And so on that note, what if we have one alive? Do you think they're prisoners of war and something? What because we've heard conspiracies all the time about we have they're working with us. They work in some underground labyrinth at Wright-Patterson where they're helping us
come up with technology,
stuff like that. I mean, do you think?
Oh, what's that movie called? Where they actually have that alien doing that? I can't even think of it as it's a comedy. I'm sorry. When you started doing that, that's all I could think of was him.
Or do you think that they come down and then they go back? I mean, again, it's all speculation at this point.
That's all it is speculation. Is it?
On that note, though, I mean, that's kind of my whole point behind this. Where it's hard to sit and be patient right now for me because I hear something or I listen to this thing again. They say something and it reminds me of
another time.
This, this story or that story, this conspiracy, that conspiracy, and I'm just like, all it takes, again, is one incident,
right?
And the possibilities. I mean,
that's
one time.
That's anything that we're investigating. That's anything. That's the Bigfoot. All it takes is one. As soon as we have pure footage, pure evidence, that's all it'll take. Ghost. As soon as we have that pure footage, that pure evidence, that's why we're doing this, to find the truth.
But what I was going to say on that line, you asked a question about, do you think we have something and we're doing something with it? Think about it from the Bigfoot aspect. If an individual was to capture a Bigfoot, scientists would want to take that creature, test it, do whatever they need to. So why wouldn't they do that with a non-human life form?
So also, my thought goes to, we have biologic material, right?
Mm-hmm.
What if it's on a probe?
Sure.
What if it's something that's not even in our radar at the there's a probe that was sent to
right,
I mean?
right.
And then so now I'm really going to get there because he alluded to this. So if you gathered onto it, what if it's not from beta verticuli? What if it's from? What if it's not space travel.
Well, that's something we brought up earlier. You and I were talking. What if it is inner space? What if it is Atlantis?
Well, he kind of let in
because everything is around the ocean.
Yeah.
All these sightings, all these new
San
sightings,
Diego, off the coast of San Diego, off the coast of
above Hawaii.
Except for, in my opinion, there's something that's going on through the basin like that where Skinwalker Ranch is, which I'm not relating to that necessarily, but there's that core down through the central U.S. But what about what if it is But where do you? How do you even process that?
Yeah, every time you're looking over him, you can't cut out every single time.
How do you?
I would just move the mic. There. How do you what?
So I mean, what if it is interdimensional? Because and here's where I get deep. So, y'all know. I'm gonna stay on track for a second. It's hard. What if it is interdimensional? For one, I love the movie Interstellar, and I think that there's a lot of potential in those aspects being something that's there. And what if we do ride that dimensional plane where something's able to come across that?
Right.
For one, I think that changes physics understanding just the same way as time travel would from 10,000 light years away.
Yes.
And not just from a wow factor, but I mean it the same type of concepts. You have to have physical laws that are different.
Yes.
But so y'all know for the longest time I've kind of I use the term, but I don't like to say it. I've become disenfranchised with the ghost stuff.
Yeah.
But for many years now, I lean less towards, it's Aunt Betty stuck in the living room.
Yeah.
I lean more towards, is there a space-time issue there? And I don't think that, and that's where I get a lot of hate for. I don't think that the ghost side is going to go any further than it is right now, unless we have technological breakthroughs. I mean, major breakthroughs. We have to be able to see. We have to have a different understanding of dimensions, because I think that there's a crossover that's there. What if they're the same thing? Ghost, aliens.
So now you're talking about them both being different dimensions?
Well, so let's say you have a dimensional travel being. That's a UFO crosses dimensions.
Right. Time and space.
Time and space. I mean, comes from, XYZ.
Right.
Y plus. You know what I mean? It's a different altogether. I mean, it's an alternate dimension.
So you're saying now,
because that's one of the things he talks about. We don't know, but this could be a dimensional issue.
Yeah, true. It could be a dimensional thing. So on the ghost thing, when we cross over, it's a different dimension that we're crossing over to.
I don't know, but I think, and I guess where I'm going with this is I think that on my words earlier about how I think we're going to have a major breakthrough to be able to break through the ghost side of paranormal, haunting side. I think the potential with this whole thing right now for it to be that breakthrough with what just happened. If we know something, or we have, and maybe it won't be a breakthrough, but maybe it will lead to it eventually. If, let's say, there is a dimensional travel aspect of aliens, UFOs, extraterrestrial, whatever you have it, and we have now an understanding because we've reverse engineered, we've talked to beings, whatever. I think that it will either prove or disprove what I was just hauntings being the same thing. So I think it's a major deal, a major find in that. Does that make sense? I don't know if I'm getting away.
I see where you're going with it. You're,
we talk about before. Somebody sees an apparition. Is that just because the veil,
right,
the dimension,
right, yeah.
whatever it is allowing that to transfer? What if the alien stuff or the UFO stuff, the UAP, whatever you want to call it, they just figured out how to transverse that veil?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's technically the same stuff. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I like it. Different.
I told you, we talked about when we go up, one of my things, I wanted to talk about the future of where things, maybe why I've become that way towards hauntings, but maybe we'll delve into that more, because this really got me to thinking about that. But you talked about before, we talk about time and space travel. You warp time, you fold the taco over, and you can cross wormholes. What all these sorts of things. But is the dimensional travel, is that an alternate reality? Where you make the decision right now, but somewhere else in this other dimension, you continued with the original choice you had decided.
Right.
So now there's two dimensions, and that's what quantum physics and all stuff.
Multiverse.
Yeah. So all of that. Anyway, I think it could all potentially be related, and I'm wondering if I find it weird that they brought that up about the dimension. I mean, it would have been a whole lot easier to say, yeah, we got a spaceship that we captured, and we think it's from potentially another galaxy, another whatever.
Well, if he's saying that we are reverse engineering these craft, we would know if it is I would assume.
Unless we don't have the technology to be able to reverse engineer what it is we're looking at.
Exactly. But I mean, if we do have these craft and we have reverse engineered some items, I mean, like you said, the processors now. Our computers are getting smaller and smaller every day. If we have reverse engineered some of this stuff, how do we not know that it's come out and we've integrated that into common useful items that we buy at the store? Like the microwave. I still go back to the microwave. How did we know that putting a box around that and putting microwaves in would cook something? We had to test it. Or another theory, and this has nothing to do with UAPs or anything like that, but just how we hide the technology as far as our aircraft being able to go above Mach. We were the first ones to do it. And why did we do that? Because we had engineers come up and we tested things, and then we came up with a stabilator instead of a stabilizer and an elevator. Because going so fast over it, the elevator, that small little elevator, couldn't catch the wind to control the pitch of the aircraft. So they came up with a way that's never been done before of creating the entire stabilizer, moving it to be a stabilator. So the faster we go, the higher we can go in the atmosphere, we have the bigger surface area of the stabilator to break the sound barrier. And we had that technology for 5 years. No one could figure it out. Do we have that sort of technology now that we're using or that we're incorporating into our aircraft? And it goes back to the Skunk Works. The 50s, we were able to go faster than anything. I mean, it's still unclassified how fast that aircraft can go. 3.5 Mach plus. And it gets constantly, we retired that aircraft. Do we have something else that could do that? Now we're doing supersonic aircraft. Where the computers are designing these craft, and don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure that last year we designed, developed, and flew a craft within 1 year, and it went supersonic.
But look at what AI can do now.
Exactly.
I mean, and that's it was brought up in there too, artificial intelligence.
Is this something that we're getting from somewhere else? The non-humans, are they sharing technology with us? Is that why it's national security?
Well, for me, I guess the thing that always has surprised me is you think, when was the first air flight that the Wright brothers did? Early 1900s.
Yes.
Okay.
1909.
I want to say 1903, but anyways, early 1900s. Jump forward to when the SR-71 came out.
Mm-hmm.
So in a 50-year period, we advanced that fast.
Right.
Yeah, and then we went.
I mean,
and then we went to the moon, and now 10 years later, we go to the moon, and nothing, and then we cancel space exploration.
Yeah, that was
just when we were starting to.
But we're going back.
That's another.
Now we're going back, yeah. And
but
now
we also released the fact that we may possibly have alien technology. Are you following me?
Yeah. Oh no, I get.
But see, it's not us going back; it's civilians.
Yeah.
It's other.
Well, but you know,
why is the government not going back?
But NASA is. I mean that's
only because of
Elon and
that's the only reason. Why?
What's his name?
Elon Musk?
Bezos.
Virgin
Bezos.
Yeah.
Oh,
man. And why can't I not think tonight?
But why are we not going back? Is there something stopping us from going to where it's the civilian side that's wanting to make the push to go to Mars now?
I mean, I hear what you're saying. I find it weird that we didn't go back forever.
Mm-hmm.
And then 2017, we had these videos come out. Then we have the Space Force. Then we're going back to the moon. And oh, by the way, we may have
crafts that can do that.
Could it be maybe we were told not to go back?
Well, that's one of the conspiracy theories. We were told not to go back in 71, 72. Because we had 6 lunar modules ready to go. And so
another whole podcast
that is
in and of itself.
Conspiracy one again.
So anyway, I guess that we got way sidetracked on that.
That was my squirrel hole.
Well, no, because I took y'all somewhere you probably didn't want to. Dimensional thing, I just think that I think that there's a correlation between. I think that it's something that can't be not considered. What I mean.
So what about all this reporting now? If the whole point behind this congressional hearing was to come up with ways to report and have a committee oversight over this, the preliminary UAP report that came out last year.
Well,
that didn't have anything in it, really. I was waiting for it. That didn't have anything in it. Really.
So, and I know where you're going with this. Jeff made the comment earlier about he doesn't trust any of this process that we will be able to get any information, that they're still going to keep it secret. But you have brought up a fact about how the difference. So the first, however many years was it?
17.
17 years.
17 years that we have, that they went over the reports. I mean, before that, we had Project Blue Book. We had all those other projects where we had reporting, and they came up with stuff. Well, now we have the UAP task force, and they went back 17 years and was looking at all the reports, and all they had was 144 reports that they went through. And they really didn't say anything about those 144, just that we'll have to further do analysis on these. And then I found the annual report on the UAPs, and now they have 510 reports. Of those 510, you still have the original 144, but then you had 247 new ones. Plus, they had 119 that they didn't even discuss within those first 17 years that they found. So now they have 510, and out of those, they only gave reports on some of the stuff. Okay. The reports were, let me see if I can find it real quick. So they had 26 of them are characterized as unmanned aircraft or UASs or UAS-like origin. They had 163 that were characterized as a balloon or balloon-like object, which I can see that. And then they also had 6 cases where they consider as clutter, like birds, trash, things that float in the sky, right? And then the remaining ones, they say they got to do further analysis because it showed characteristics that we can't do. What else do you need to do an analysis of? We can't do it.
See, so now we have this reporting program, and their hopes are to release it to the public. Do you think they'll release any of those characteristics so that we can see that?
I don't think so right away.
That's what I thought this annual report was supposed to be. Granted, they have a classified one as well. And I think the classified one is the one where they say, okay, this is what it can and cannot do. They're just going to tell us it's unclassified. The unclassified stuff, they're going to be unusual flight characteristics or performance capabilities. And it requires the further analysis. What requires further analysis of that?
I mean, how many times can you analyze it? You know what I mean?
And they're saying a majority of these new reports came from naval aviators and Air Force aviators. They know what an aircraft can and can't do. That's why they have 2 Navy aviators on as witnesses. They know what it can. So why do we need to further? Just tell us.
Yeah.
That's my thing with these reports. I'm waiting to see. It's an annual UAP report. I want to see a summary of what are these. If you have that many sightings and that many different craft.
Well, what I would like to see is, we see the tic-tac fast moving and all this sort of stuff, but what I would like to see is we followed a craft. It was moving this direction. It was traveling at 2,500 knots.
Mm-hmm.
It was traveling. It did this. It made a 210-degree turn, which would equate at this speed to about 400 Gs.
Yeah.
That's what I would like.
Same.
In a report to come out.
Yes.
Do you think that when all this is said and done, they're going to come out and say, with what Grush has said, they're going to come out and say, look, here's a picture of what we recovered?
I would like that to happen.
Well, I would too.
Do I think it's going to happen? No.
I do.
Think it's going to happen.
In this day and age, I think it will.
Do you think will that be enough for you? If they show you a picture.
Well,
it'll never be enough.
That's going to confirm that there is other intelligent life besides us.
I think that they'll play it off that way, though. I don't think they'll say we can't say where this come from, but this is what we got, or they'll show us a video. I mean, a real video of something like.
It's like they make a point to say, "Not of this Earth."
Yes, and they've said it, and they've said it. Back during the pandemic.
So, what Earth is it from?
Back during the pandemic, I think it was in 2019. No, I mean 2021. There was that one hearing, and the guy was testifying before Congress. We have this that is not of this world.
Mm-hmm.
You remember all that? And it never even made the news.
Talking about the first whistleblower?
No. Are you talking about Lazar?
Yeah.
Yeah, no. We never went to Lazar.
No, we didn't. But
on a brief note, would that change your perspective on Lazar? I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah.
If they came out and said that
this is real,
this is real, we've had it since the 30s, 40s, everything that he said was true. Yeah, it would wholeheartedly change my opinion on it. As the first whistleblower on this subject.
I think I believe Lazar, but I believe that he was also fed things that weren't necessarily
sure. Yeah, I can see that.
You know what I mean? I think he was a misinformation informant.
And this guy, I don't think was.
Yeah.
No, I don't. I think he catches a lot of flack, and even people that I know are like, I didn't buy this guy from the get-go. And then I was explaining, do you know the repercussions of filing a false?
Yes.
I mean, federal prison time.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Who would risk that to be famous?
And he's already said that all his intelligence, he goes back. He's what, GS-15 now?
15,
yeah. He's no longer.
Well, yeah, was GS-15. I mean, and before that in the Air Force, he was a major. You get that rank, you have to. There's so many different steps you got to go through.
Yeah.
To get that, especially with GS-15.
Well, and when these guys that broke the story, and my mind is going to go blank. It's on my phone, I'm sure. Ian and the other journalist that broke it, they vetted this. And everybody's like, look, this dude was top of class.
Yeah.
I mean, he was a fast mover. He was always on the up and up, and he did this, that, and the other. And people verified that's who he is. That's what he did.
Well, you could tell just by the way he was given his witness statements. He was
matter of fact.
Yeah, matter of fact. He was boom, boom, boom. Ask a question. Yes, yes, yes. I would have to do that in closed session. I can't tell you that.
Yeah, he would know when to stop and say, "I've gone far enough.
Yes.
I can't tell you no more."
So that tells me him alone, his statement alone, I would wholeheartedly believe what he's saying.
Do you think you don't think he's a victim of a misinformation?
No, not in the position he was in when he was on the UAP task force.
Yeah, he was the one investigating.
Yeah, he was the one investigating. He was also the co-lead of the one given the presidential reports, the daily presidential reports. You can't give a presidential report as some Mo Joe blow off the street. You got to have your P's and Q's in a row. You got to know your stuff. So, yeah, I wholeheartedly believe everything. I don't believe it was misinformation. Not at all.
That's my opinion.
You're shaking your head, so I'm
no,
assuming that's
no,
your opinion.
no,
too.
I agree. I agree. I mean, could he possibly have gotten some? Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. I mean, some stuff will slip through, but
the smoking man.
Yeah. To have the amount of information that he has. Now, I understand that a lot of the stuff the American public isn't privy to because of national security. I get all of it. And that's where you get into, they talked about the skiffs, getting into the skiffs. But it was, as you said earlier, very interesting that congressmen, congresswomen received such flack as to gaining access to stuff.
Yeah.
You know, they had talked, I believe it.
And it's the Department of Defense that's doing that.
Correct. So I also thought, and I was going to bring this up to you guys, could it possibly be too that funding is being sent somewhere to
I'm sure
companies and
yes.
so they're trying not to bring that up in front of Congress,
which is why he's bringing this up.
And then that's where the classified, and he's got to be careful because he can't answer a question because General Dynamics has such and such, and they're reverse engineering this because now that's a security risk for them.
Sure,
on who might be trying to break in.
To get that. Yeah. Right. So, but anyways, it was interesting when they asked a question, to each of them, do you feel that UAPs are a national security threat?
I think that the ball got rolling. I think that we will be given something. I don't think that they'll call it different than what they are right now. But I also think that the ball got rolling hard enough that it won't be long either. I think it'll be maybe by the end of the year.
Too many people are going to start asking
questions. Yeah, and I was thinking that you're past the point of no return now. You can't stop now.
So, and whether or not that be that, this was all a farce, or here's what we got.
Yeah.
But I think we'll get something. I think we'll get a picture. I think we'll get.
Do you think it'll happen because of the subcommittee, or do you think it'll happen because of what you were talking about? Now it's going to go congressional.
I mean, I believe that's the next step. I mean, they're going to get the recommendations. They're going to get all this stuff put together, and then they'll make the recommendations. It's going to go from there. And it may not necessarily happen this year because that process is going to take a while, but I think it'll happen faster. Not. I think this will be a whole lot different than 2017 and the videos.
My thing is now, they say,
I think that people feel comfortable. You know, when that law got changed for the whistleblowers,
right?
And this is when he started the ball rolling.
Yeah.
He's like, wait a minute, here, now's my chance. And these people have been working on this story for weeks and months, and they were ready to go. And I believe that there are other people that are now going to reach out to that committee, and they're going to be like, hey, you know what? Here's what I got. That's what I think is going to happen. My only fear is,
you think they're going to reach out to the committee, or are they going to reach out to Arrow?
I think they'll reach out to same way. They'll file a complaint and they'll turn it over to the Senate. And
well, isn't that why Arrow was created now? Well, only for the military side. Arrow was created so that they have a reporting system to go to.
I think the first thing that's going to happen is Congress is going to make it illegal to. It'll be like a EEO type law where you report a UAP.
Well, they would have to push that now.
Yeah.
With the Congress that's in there now, it would have to be pushed because, I mean, there's been so many pushbacks for years.
Yeah.
But I think that they'll make it a. That they'll make that a law that, hey, if you're an airline pilot, you're whoever, you cannot be discriminated, whatever, if you turn in a report.
Well, that's why,
quickly.
What did he find that American Graves? What's his company? Where the civilian pilots can now come? He's got like 30 coming.
Yeah.
It's, I got it here. Can I think of that? Mine is a break. Graves, he's got that. American for Safe Aerospace.
Right.
And that's where they're can come safely to report to his without any repercussions. And right now he said he's working with 30 pilots.
Yeah.
Giving their stories.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, you got that, and then you also got MUFON.
Yeah, I thought about that. Where's MUFON at in this
that's
whole
what I was wondering
process?
as well. Where is MUFON?
Is there something that's discredited? I mean,
because I saw George Knapp sitting right behind him.
Yeah.
He was sitting there. But where's MUFON in all this?
I was just wondering, have they been discredited to that point to where they can't? They don't have a part in this, or are they going to go back and start pulling their reports? But also, the problem that I have with that is, and don't get me wrong, I think MUFON does a great job.
Yes,
but they take every
report, every little thing.
Yeah, you know, Bubba on the back porch had too many 12 packs. And, you know, and not that they credit that, but they track that, and rightfully so. Somebody's got to.
Yeah.
But I think that there needs to be a distinguishing. You know, that there needs to
hierarchy.
Be an official, vetted sighting. You know what I mean? I know, you know, my sighting, I turned into MUFON. They called me, they investigated, and I mean, they were on spot now. I mean, they pulled data, they did everything that they could, and it's considered a credible report, from what I understand. So it's I don't know. I think that there's just so much uncertainty. But I wondered where did MUFON go? Where did Newfort go? Where did
where'd
all of these? Where'd they all go?
Why didn't they have any of them come in for the subcommittee?
I don't think they would have packed the punch.
Yeah.
I don't think they would have packed the punch as much as Commander Fravor sitting there going, I was flying behind this thing and this is what happened.
But Rob and I was talking before you got here, and I agreed with him at the aspect of Fravor. He witnessed it.
Right.
But the second team that went and filmed it would have been nice to hear from them.
Right. Why didn't they? The only reason he said that he went was because Staten asked him, Staten asked him to give your story. Otherwise he wouldn't have. But even then he said there was his superiors didn't investigate it.
Yeah. He said that he wasn't He said that he wasn't treated badly. They
No.
just didn't take it anywhere.
It was just a good drinking story.
But I also have read some things where one of these guys, and I don't know if it was Graves or one of the other crews that got it, but where the guys showed up in the black suits on the black helicopters and took their flight data recorders and their video rolls and all that sort of stuff and took off with it. So, does that ship captain just say, "Hey, it is what it is"? That's why he doesn't take any action on it.
Yeah.
Did someone show up and say?
I
They said
think
the radar footage is gone, missing.
Mhm.
So maybe someone did come and take that.
Mhm.
Maybe the Men in Black did show up.
So yeah, maybe he wasn't. The pilots aren't treated badly because they're seeing it, they're talking about it, it's getting around, but it don't go anywhere because nobody knows where it's going to go.
But it is nice though now that they have the capability, and as long as there's not like any retribution,
Right.
I think that'll
in
be
the military.
that'll be the first thing that gets passed.
Yeah.
It'll be on the first deal, and then I think that we'll get some sort. And I don't even know if it'll be a picture, but it may be a capabilities statement.
Sure.
It may be but we'll get something.
Yeah.
I think if we do have crash recovery, we've got materials that's been tested. I think we'll get maybe I don't know, that might be considered
New technology?
like what is the metal made of? What is the craft made of? What
I don't think we'll get that. I don't think we'll get that. I think the only thing, like you said, here's a picture of it. But is it a real picture?
Yeah.
Because we all know how to doctor.
Yeah, I mean AI right now.
Oh, exactly.
That's nuts. That's the problem. That's going to be the problem with Bigfoot.
Yeah, right.
You would literally have to have a Bigfoot right there.
Mhm.
Not just the print, the video, because even the Patterson one, it's fake.
Yeah, you're going to have something. And that's the same thing. But now, do we have the smoking gun? Do we have the body? Do we have, you know what I mean? Not Bigfoot.
Right.
But,
The UFOs, because, I mean, we have it on the radar that's been released.
but apparently we may have
The
have
actual,
it.
Right.
the actual craft.
Right.
Never know.
Yep. I think that
So all in all, what do you think of the committee? Was it good to have? What do you think?
I think it was phenomenal. I was excited going into it, but at the same time I was like, ain't nothing gonna happen. And me and Daniel talked about that, and I was like, yeah, it'll be the same like last. But when I sat through this, and again, the most to me, and again, I don't know, I haven't heard anybody else say it, but to me, the thing that I took out more than anything else was Mr. Gates basically giving
His testimony.
yeah, and it's like, you're not even here to do that. You're here to ask questions of them, but you just said on public record in a public court hearing,
Mhm.
this is what I saw.
Yeah.
And to me, that changed my perspective of how I perceive where this is going to go. If they had just got up there and told their story, showed the tic tac, showed the fast mover, Grush tells his story, and all right, well, we'll reconvene, I'd have been like, yeah, this is going nowhere. But to have him and Luna,
Yeah.
I mean, they were in this.
Mr. Garcia.
They were in it to win it. I mean, you know what I mean? That's what I
Yeah.
took, and I was like, man,
They
this is
they really want. I mean, Mr. Garcia even said he's the new kid on the block when it comes to this. But as an educator and a researcher, he wants to know. He wants to find out what the truth is, and that's why he's on this panel. And that's why he's digging into everything. That's why he's asking all these questions. There needs to be some oversight, and I wholeheartedly agree.
Oh yeah,
Especially if we have all this.
I get the need for black programs. I really do.
Yes.
I mean, and I don't think anybody, if they just sit back and think about it, could really go against. I mean, they can argue it all day long, but there is a time and a need for bad stuff sometimes to be able to persevere.
Well, it's like they were talking about the stealth helicopter. Didn't exist. Didn't have one.
Yeah.
But we used it on the Bin Laden mission.
Yeah. And then had to blow it up.
Yeah.
And then tell everybody that's what we did.
Yeah.
Because we didn't want them to know that that's what we did. So yeah, I don't know. It changed my perspective to see that level of involvement. I mean, just to hear that crew of representatives went down to Eglin, that they've been to these bases and they're looking into it. I mean, they're like, huh? And then again, I think, well, is that part of the narrative? Is this the soft disclosure?
Yeah, because they were talking about how they wanted to get in the right pat.
Because if they'd have just came out, honestly, you know, if CNN would have popped up and said, aliens, or we found this, you know, people would have, and that I joked about it. I put it on my social media about that lady on that plane.
Yeah.
And bless her heart, I don't know what was going on there, but that's the response I think the majority of people would have if you just all of a sudden showed a UFO over Manhattan. Yeah. You know what I mean? They'd have been like, oh, this is bad, you know.
And that's the other thing.
Independence Day, here we go.
Why is it got to be a doomsday?
Right.
Why is it got to be an adversary?
So I think by doing this, I really think that this really is the soft disclosure that's coming forever. I think that hey, this is possible. We're gauging where the thermometer's at. Hey, everybody's cool. Oh, did you hear this? Oh, it didn't get a lot of news. Hope we're going to put out a little more. And then all of a sudden, here it is. That's what I think is going to happen.
So if it gets to that point to where, yes, it's fact. Now, do we go all the way back to Ancient Alien?
I don't see how you couldn't.
Exactly.
I don't see how you couldn't. Because, you know, and y'all know I didn't miss an episode of that forever. I mean, I still like that show. I think they're
for the most part
wrong on a lot of stuff. Yeah. But, I mean, some of these theories and some of these things, I sit here and listen to this committee hearing and I'm like, yeah. I mean, it's just the first thing I thought of when he said the mid-30s, as I thought the Italian UFO cover-up. That's exactly what I thought of. And I thought, you know, where does it stop now? And that's what we talked about before. All it takes is one thing, one piece of proof, the last little piece of that puzzle to be plugged in. History, physics, science, biology, everything that we know rewritten.
And my personal, I hope it goes that way. I really do.
I do too. I mean,
and I'm going to go back to the TV show, my favorite one, Star Trek. Okay, Gene Roddenberry, he had this stuff. He knew all we got to do is put this to better mankind. Use that technology. If we have this technology, use it to go explore. Don't worry about the petty stuff that's happening on our little itty bitty planet. Go out there and explore.
We would be a fool to believe that even if there's other civilizations out there, you have Earth and we're on Earth and we have global warming. We have this, we use the resources and we grow. At some point in time,
we have to.
You've got to leave the nest.
Yes.
Or you're going to fail. You know, if a baby bird sits in the nest and don't go out and do anything,
it dies.
That's where it's at.
Yep.
And that any civilization on any planet cannot tell me if we're like that they're not using their resources. Have to go, and it's nature. We have to explore. We have to do those things. You have to be able to go. It is nature to survive, and that's where you have to go. And I think that, although I think that there could be the potential. I mean, you're just like anything. You look at human history and wars and invasions, conquering, and all that. It's going to happen, but I think that for the most part, you're right. That the nature of survival will cause us to work with. I think that'll be the first priority.
And see, that's the thing with we like you were talking about 9/11. We get together. COVID. We came together. Granted, we were separate.
It was a different deal. It was on the internet. But we figured out a way to do it.
But we came together as a human species,
right,
to conquer that.
Right.
Why can't we come together as a human and go out and explore and tell the stuff, the facts? We have this stuff. Let's use it to go out there. That's my thing. That's what I'm hoping that this whole subcommittee goes up that, like you said, I'm big on out there. I really am. When we created the Space Force, I was like, man,
I wish it had been 20 years.
Yeah,
Yes.
I was gonna say.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, when that what is it? Independence Day Part 2, where we have it based on the moon. Space Force.
Yeah.
Granted, Space Force is just for the satellites and the space out there, but I guarantee you, one day we're gonna.
And we could beat this all night long. Say we already.
Yeah.
I mean, really, if one part of what just transpired is true, who's to say we don't?
Which is why we're bringing back out space exploration.
Back to the moon.
Going back to the moon, planning a mission to Mars. I mean, we've been planning a mission to Mars for how long?
He can make it to Jupiter in how long? What was?
Yeah.
I mean,
you never know.
Yeah.
And they came out and I know it had to do with logistics, like the movement of everything. But now he's like, oh, we can make it in 3 months to Mars or 6 months instead of a year and a half or whatever. That because we now have technology. I mean, we can sit here and ponder and think and conspire and do all that, but
we spend hours
until we get this piece. But when we do, like I said, in my opinion, it changes religion. It changes, and not that it changes my perspective.
Right.
I don't think that changes at all, but it changes everything.
Yeah. Rewrites history.
Absolutely everything. If one piece is, but until we get that, this is where we're at.
This is where
we can be happy. We can be excited. So, I guess that's where we can leave it.
Yeah.
If y'all are good,
I'm good with leaving it there. I think it was a good thing. I enjoyed the subcommittee. You're over here pondering.
I was going to go down a rabbit hole for a second, but I figured we'll
go
let
ahead.
it go.
Do it.
Let's wrap it up.
I think it's a very great thing, but I also think it can be a very negative.
I the potential's there. I do think.
I really do think that it could.
My big fear is
because imagine you grow up your whole life, you're told a story your whole life. And on your dying bed, you're told, guess what? That wasn't true.
I know where you're going with that, I think. And I would love to do a show on why it doesn't change my perspective of things theologically.
Down for that.
I wasn't going there with that. I was going more from it on the government side of it, but I can see.
Yeah.
I would like to hear your takes.
It doesn't change my perspective. I mean, I mean, I'm a Christian. It doesn't change my perspective one bit whatsoever, and I think I could.
And it wouldn't mine either. But like I said, for me, it would validate my thoughts of, well, they thought we were dumb and they were just keeping this.
I don't think it's
us.
that they think we're dumb. I think it's that, for one, I think someone always has to be in power. Two, I think that
Illuminati.
They think that they know best for us when they don't necessarily, possibly, but that's what they think that. But you got to look at who set the standard we have. Anytime, I mean, you look at markets crash, and that's what my fear is. Are the banks and the markets going to crash?
Yeah,
I mean, that
comes out.
Like,
yeah.
Holy crap! But you know what? They released that report, and stock markets and space exploration, all those things started going up.
Yes, it did.
So that's
why I say it's soft disclosure. But we could go into that, and it's kind of a rough. We would have to break down everything individually because we're already over 2 hours, and
so for me,
we've just been rambling.
I want to say thanks for going into this topic. I'm glad it came out. I'm really.
Oh, I know you are
looking forward to the future, as to what we may hear.
Yes.
I will, and I'll leave it at this. I mentioned it earlier, but it's all relative. Everything.
Yes.
And maybe I'll cover that. But
we'll do another show on that one.
Everything that we do in the paranormal realm is relative. And I think that it takes one piece of this puzzle. And I'll get weird on y'all on another episode.
All right.
I mean, think about. So you have species of aliens, right? We have lizard men with the Nordics.
Yep.
We have this. We have this. We have cryptids. We have lizard men, dog men. Are you following me?
Oh yeah.
I think a lot of things are misidentification, but I'll leave that for another show because I get really out there.
Yeah.
So, real quick, and I would like to wrap up with Jeff telling us where he's going. But what I wanted to say is we've taken a hiatus. If you've stuck with us this long, which I hope you have, we have a show that we've done. We're probably going to re-record some things because we took a hiatus. The pandemic kind of set us back. We had some personal things that hit us, and we're going to explain that to you. But we weren't completely worthless.
No, we
during
weren't
this
gone
time.
completely.
And so we have some stories, some tales, some audio, some video, and some things that we're going to share with you guys about what we did during this last 2 years or so.
Right. Yeah.
We've still been here. We want to get this energized. If you follow us on social media, you see that we've got our studio, thanks to Jeff, back up. We're getting there, so we're going to get this out there. But that will be a future episode. Unless y'all want to add anything,
it would be a future episode, but I think the next episode is going to be you calling in, and what you're segueing into is where are you going?
Well, in the middle part of August, I am taking a trip to see my brother in Virginia, but one of the things that we are going to do is we rented out the Lizzie Borden house in Massachusetts. My brother's...
I thought it was just a single room that you rented out.
No, it was going to be. Then we found out that other people can stay in the house at the same time. Well, if I want to investigate, I need to have everything, what's the word? Sanitary, basically.
Yeah, you've got to be controlled.
I got to be controlled. So if I have people in there moving around, I don't know what's what. So my brother and I got to talking, and we said, let's just rent the place out. So we did. So the 17th of August, we're going to have the whole place for the whole evening and check out like 10 o'clock the next morning.
Nice.
So I'm going to take equipment with me. We're going to do a phone in. I'm going to phone in from the location. And
if you can't be here with me, I'll do it myself.
Yeah. So looking forward to that. You guys will get all of the play-by-play from what went on while we were there. My brother's a huge Lizzie Borden. He watches a certain movie that came out in the 70s every week, and he's just big into the whole Lizzie Borden piece.
So he knows a lot of the history of it.
He does.
Good.
He does. So there's also a museum there in Falls River, I think it's called, where it's at. He would know that. We're going to do that. So it's going to be a good time.
That sounds like a plan. Sounds like a vacation I'd like to go on.
So, but yeah. So to wrap this up here, we talked a lot about the subcommittee hearing, UAPs, UFOs, all of that. Mike talked a little bit about, we have been on a hiatus, but you're going to hear where we've been, what we've been doing, and the direction we're looking at going as MPI.
Right.
I'll give you a little snippet. We're going away from residential type investigations and going more into the, I'll say, outdoor. And I'll leave it at that.
Okay, I like that. And we're also going to be adding social media and the viewers to the shows as well.
Correct.
Plus a lot more podcasts. No. Definitely doing a lot more podcasts.
We enjoy this. We got to get in our groove again. But
so on that, on this topic, if you guys have any comments or, things you would like to add, reach out to us. We'd like to hear from you.
What's that phone number?
Yeah, you're going to make them look at the phone number right now, but you can find us on social media still. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Well, it's X now. It's X now. Just look for Military Paranormal, all one word.
On YouTube.
You can reach out to us via Facebook Messenger, email us at podcast@militaryparanormal.com, or our phone number,
which is 940-247-6741.
There we go.
So, all right. Well, guys, it was a great time. Enjoyed it. Mike, love hearing all your thoughts on this topic.
I didn't get too weird on y'all tonight.
You know what, though? For me, that's the thing I like about you. You give a total different perspective.
Yes.
And makes me truly stop and think about things.
I don't know if that's good or bad, but
no, that's good.
So it's good.
I had pages of notes here that I could have taken it really weird, but
I had pages of notes too. I didn't even go anywhere near some of the
This was just
stuff.
us kind of talking about our perspective, and I think some of those, I hear other podcasters, other people talking about some of it, but some of it I think we had some pretty different opinions.
I think we do as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe I'll get weird on y'all in the future.
Definitely.
All right. Y'all take care, and we'll talk to you later.
Thanks for listening.
Later.
Thank you for listening to the MPI Paranormal Podcast. This podcast has been brought to you by Military Paranormal Investigations. Hope you all enjoyed the show. Don't forget to connect with us on Podbean, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Until next time, the truth is to be found.